dessert every day for weight loss. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Nicole and I am a holistic nutritionist and nutrition coach. And today I'm going to tell you why you should be incorporating dessert into your day every single day if you want to lose weight. The problem when most people go through a diet is that they're cutting out so many different foods. They go from eating whatever they want to a select handful of foods that they can eat for their entire diet. So now what happens when you start restricting food? Well, the first thing that happens is you end up binging on the exact foods that you cut out. So that whole mentality around this is just willpower, I just need the discipline not to have these things, that is not the best way to go about any of this, because when you do that, like I said, those are going to be the exact foods that you end up binging on. So when it comes to dessert, it doesn't actually have to be dessert specifically. If you're thinking about chocolate cake and cupcakes, it could be chips, popcorn, or maybe even just fruit, if that's been demonized, or even toast. Whatever it is that you truly like and that will keep you on track, it's more beneficial to have that in your life. Now, before anyone starts attacking me about how chicken and broccoli and tilapia are the best things to have while dieting, I would argue that keeping dessert or some type of snack in your day every single day is going to keep you in a state where you can actually adhere to your diet, which makes it more sustainable than if you cut it out and then ended up binging on those foods later. And this happens all too often when you go through a diet and you think, okay, I can sustain myself on 1,200 calories a day and I'm going to cut out gluten, dairy, carbs, everything that actually tastes good. And the only reason why you should ever do that is if you're going through an elimination diet where for health benefits, you need to cut those out. Otherwise, if you're just trying to lose weight, you don't need to restrict yourself or tell yourself that these foods are bad and that you shouldn't have them. Part of human nature is understanding that we want what we can't have. And so when you deem a food bad or that you can't have it, well, that's going to make you want it even more because, like I said, everybody wants what they can't have. There are definitely ways to incorporate these foods into your day every single day. If you take a look at, let's do an example, a chocolate bar and a protein bar. These two bars, one is supposed to be healthy, but in reality, this protein bar is actually higher in calories than this chocolate bar. And so when it comes to losing weight, the only thing that you really need is a calorie deficit. It's not about this food is good and this food is bad. It's really just, am I in a caloric deficit so that I can actually lose weight? If the answer to that is yes, then who cares what you're actually eating? To some degree, it does matter. I, as a holistic nutritionist, I always say that if you can keep your diet clean at least 80% of the time, then you're going to be, getting in the food that you really need to be focusing on, like your protein and your fiber intake. But if you spend the entire day and instead you're just okay, well, I'm just going to go and get a Big Mac and that fills up my entire calories for the day and it's a dirty food, blah, blah, blah. That's not really the way to do it, because when you're going through a process like this, you do want to be making those choices that are going to be fulfilling. And what I mean by that is the foods that have more volume to them that are not as calorie dense. And you're going to find that in whole foods. And that is what keeps you more satisfied when you are going through a calorie deficit. So when we look at an example like raisins or a bowl of grapes, well, the bowl of grapes has more volume to it. So you're going to feel more satisfied than eating a little box of raisins, which has the same calories. And dieting doesn't have to be about suffering and saying I cut out this and I was so miserable this week. You don't get a badge of honor for it and nobody cares. At the end of the day, the only thing that really matters is whether you can get the results and keep them, or if you fall off track because your diet is so hard and you're working against yourself that you make it you make it actually impossible to attain. So some of my foods that I like to incorporate while I'm going through a calorie deficit is going to be things that have a lot more volume to it. And so when it comes to desserts or really just getting in my cravings, I always say that you have to allow yourself 10 to 20% of your calories for that to satisfy those cravings. So for example, if you're eating 1,800 calories in a calorie deficit, then you would have 180 to 360 calories to play with. So that could be eating popcorn, maybe you have a cookie or a muffin. There's actually a lot that can really fit into that, but it depends on do you want to be more volume or do you want to be more craving and calorie dense? So when it comes to choosing those foods, you really have to be mindful of what's going to get you the most bang for your buck. So that's why I really like things like rice cakes with like a nut butter or honey on it. Of course, that's not going to be satisfying for everybody, but it really does the trick for me. Another thing that I also really like is making breakfasts that are not diet breakfasts. So like a French toast, it has protein in there. You get the bread in there. It tastes delicious. Drizzle some maple syrup on top and you're like, chef's kiss. So if you've ever wondered why it's never worked in the past with all of the dieting that you've done and you've never been able to keep it off, maybe it's because you did not include dessert into your diet or you were too restrictive. So if you are going through a diet now, I challenge you to incorporate a diet food into your day every single day. I always tell my clients, find something that's within that 10 to 20% of your calorie range so that you can still have fun. Dieting is a lifestyle change. It's not about being super restrictive. You really do need to incorporate this into your life and make it work for you, because you will have special occasions. You might even have a birthday where you're eating cake, and that has to fit in there. So like I said, if you are going through a diet, please do yourself a favor and do not make it more complicated than it needs to be. You don't need to go for the protein bar over a chocolate bar. If you have the chocolate bar, get it. If it fits, it fits. And the last thing that I'll leave you with is that maybe right now is not actually a good time to be going through a diet. If you find that you feel like you are constantly thinking about food and you're obsessing over it, or you're constantly overeating because you're not eating enough food, then it might not be a good time to be going through a diet. Instead, you might want to look at doing a reverse diet instead. So take a look at my video about reverse dieting. It's going to be somewhere in my video, so I know you'll be able to find it. If you're too lazy to go and watch that video, then make sure you click the link below, and I'm going to be leaving a free metabolic assessment so you can take the test, fill out this form. It's very, very quick to do, and I will personally send you the results on whether I think that you are in a good place to go through a diet or not. See you next time.